Greetings, everyone. This is a special edition of the Purple Patch Podcast because most weeks we talk about endurance performance in sport and then extend it out to broader life and, of course, business. Today, we're bringing the same performance lens to leadership and business because the principles that drive world-class outcomes in sport are the exact same principles that build sustained, repeatable performance inside executive and leadership teams. Now, as you listen, I'd love you to consider: is my team firing on all cylinders? Are we resilient, adaptable, aligned, equipped for great growth or, of course, change, which we're all feeling under our feet? Are we channeling energy and commitment into real results? If you'd like to explore working with WindCycle and, of course, myself to fuel performance across your leadership and broader teams, check out windcycle.org. It has its own standalone website. It's WindCycle, WINCYCLE, windcycle.org. It's performance leadership first system shared by the principles of elite athletes built for executive teams who play to win. As a recent client told us, WindCycle delivered a masterclass in sustaining high performance, showing our top executives how to achieve excellence consistently. Their insights were refreshingly practical, offering tangible strategies our leaders could implement immediately. Yes, we want to make it actionable, and we even want to ensure that it's really fun. We're always happy to set up a pressure-free information call. You can learn more and see if we're a fit. Email info@purplepatchfitness.com. We keep it the same for the show here. info@purplepatchfitness.com. Mention WindCycle. Let us know that you heard about it on the show. We'd set up a time with me to have a chat, see if we're a fit for your team. Alrighty, it's time to perform in business and life. It's a WindCycle special episode. Enjoy the show. I'm Matt Dixon, and welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. The mission of Purple Patch is to empower and educate every human being to reach their athletic potential. Through the lens of athletic potential, you reach your human potential. The purpose of this podcast is to help time-starved people everywhere integrate sport into life. And welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. As ever, I'm your host, Matt Dixon. And today, we do one of our detours that we occasionally take. If you're a busy professional, a leader, a manager, this show's for you today. It's all about WindCycle, our performance leadership program. And so why do we shine a light on WindCycle today? It's been about 18 months. 18 months where we've been working with a wide range of organizations of all different industries and even different sizes. And they're seeing some common themes. Look, it's no great news. It is more competitive than it's ever been in business. Things are moving very, very fast. And the truth is that demands are not going to dissipate. In order to step up and excel, we need to meet those demands. And there needs to be a new way to equip leaders in teams to thrive in one of the most uncertain, fast-moving, dynamic environments that's more competitive than ever. And over the last 18 months, we have seen repeated patterns and core lessons that have helped teams unlock their performance. And so I thought, okay, 18 months in, why don't we pause? Why don't we do a nice little WindCycle high performance trait, which is reflect a little bit, come up and have me share with you some of our insights. What are we seeing? Now, as we started to put this show together, we probably had about 15 core insights. And there was an argument around the team. Which one should we highlight today? And we've whittled it down and landed on three core insights that I want to share with you today that have been present across every organization, whether it's an academic institution, whether it's consumer goods, whether it's private equity, every situation that has been applicable. Now, the truth is, there's probably another 3 to 5 that I think are essential. And so stay tuned because I think we're going to need to do part 2 of this show. The key here is what are the lessons from WindCycle that have helped us unlock sustained high performance across individuals and teams? We're going to dig in. I'm also going to highlight a couple of case studies. While, of course, typically I've got permission to do one, but typically protecting the organization's names and their team members' identities, because I want to make sure that you can't even guess on this stuff, okay? But it's going to be high value, high impact, and I want to make sure today's episode is not just a stimulus for thought, but maybe a shift in your approach if you're a leader of a team. So 3 core insights of Win Cycle. Here we go. Fasten your seatbelt. It's a fun one today. It is the meat and potatoes. Yes, folks, 3 core insights. And I'm going to come up with a title for each one of these, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of context, and then we'll move along. Okay, so very simple episode today. The first is insight number 1, and it's very, very simple. And that's the truth. No more trying to stand on the balance beam here. Let's jump, let's fly. Good enough is no longer good enough. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the things we're consistently seeing is that if you're going to be successful and your team is going to be successful, it's no longer enough just to skate by. In fact, one of the things as we go through so many of the lessons of the intersection of world-class sport and elite business performance is how do we educate and have people live, feel, and take actionable steps to enable them to show up better every single day. And you try different language, you try different metaphors, you show different systems, but here's an umbrella one that I think can help you. I believe that in today's business environment, where it is faster, more competitive, greater demands, huge growth and change occurring under our feet, it is incumbent and beneficial for every leader to view their role the same lens that a professional athlete would view their sport. In other words, business is your sport. You will thrive and be equipped to navigate all of the twists and turns on a journey to professional development and success if you prepare, think, and act in the same way as a professional athlete would. This is incredibly timely for our work of Win Cycle. After all, look, I spent 20 years working with world-class athletes who are chasing elite performance. In parallel, working with business leaders, striving to fuel leadership performance through adopting the very practices and mindset of a professional athlete. This is not new for us. And I used to think that this was a catalyst for the leaders that I was working with to gain an edge. But I don't really think that anymore. I think it is a smart business strategy to step up. This isn't Mad Men anymore. It is high demand, extraordinary pressure. You need to step up when your team needs you or the situation demands. And you need to have capacity, resilience, grit that lasts for the long term. And over the course of the last 20 years, I've seen the very value of leaders integrating physical challenges such as marathons or Ironman races and what it does for their performance across business and life. It not only creates a framework of optimization where you can prioritize on the key aspects, you can filter distractions, you can get unbelievably effective and organized through it, but it also builds the physical foundation, what we call the performance base layer, to enable you to have the resilience, the mental and physical resilience that is required for the journey. But now I hope you realize you don't need to be an athlete, certainly not a professional athlete, to leverage the principles that drive world-class athletes to great success. You can adopt the toolkit, the framework, the mental game, even some of the physical practices just to help you show up every day. And the truth is that it's very, very hard for anyone looking to achieve greatness in anything to do so on a bedrock of exhaustion. And so we can finally stamp on the myth of I'll sleep when I'm dead, or toughness is going to get me through, or just do the work, or chop wood, carry water, that type of stuff. And instead have a truly integrated approach where you put intention behind stuff that you do every day anyway, around your movement, around hydration, around sleep, and you develop tools of the mental game of an athlete to come together to equip you for the journey. If you prepare, you think, you act like a pro athlete, if you treat your role in business in these terms, you're going to thrive, you're going to be more successful. And so I always encourage the leaders that I work with, look through the same lens. It is your sport. Think like this. And so what does that mean in really practical terms? Well, you need systems. You need to actually adopt and build daily systems that are going to protect your energy, that are going to equip you to have greater focus throughout the day, greater cognitive function, and are going to elevate your decision-making under pressure. And these are really, really simple things. On the physical side, as I mentioned, it's just putting intention behind what you do every day. It's not complicated to start every single one of your days with consuming a liter of water, and then over the course of the day, consuming another couple of liters. That's not a complicated skill to acquire, a habit to develop. And the reason that's important is by being properly hydrated in the day, it stabilizes your energy. It's going to make it less volatile. It's going to amplify your energy. It improves cognitive function. It supports your immune system. So these are all performance-enhancing tools. But guess what? When we have executives enter our program and we survey them up front before intervention, do you know the average amount of fluids that executives are consuming currently, right now? According to about 750 people that we've surveyed. Now, these are VP or above, under a liter a day. So this is a really simple practice that can help from the physical side. What about movement? We have many people that listen as athletes on this show that might be training for a marathon or maybe a triathlon. But it's incredible if we remove the exercise portion, how low people's step counts are. Sometimes if you remove the 60-minute bike trainer workout and then you judge that executive over the course of the rest of the day, we find people that are only moving their body 2,000 additional steps in the day. Why does that matter? Well, from a performance standpoint, it really matters because general movement is one of our biggest catalysts for stress processing, for building capacity, for enhancing our energy throughout the day, for enhancing our ability to focus and process information. So these are really simple practices that we filter out distractions, remove all of the noise, and just build basic habits. That's the physical side of it. The mental side of it is helping leaders, I should say, not athletes, start to adopt the mental game of professional athletes. How do you actually develop agency where you don't reduce the pressures that you're under, but you have a toolkit to inform your stress response, building capacity, enhancing your ability to navigate pressure-filled situations, and actually developing the mental resilience? That's not by accident. How do you overcome setbacks and failures where you can continue to make progress or adapt? Yes, that word adaptability, where you're moving up into a roadblock or a cul-de-sac. How do you shift that thinking? None of this is by accident. None of it occurs. These are traits that are not genetic, but they're trainable. And so these are the components. When we think about it, it's nothing about becoming an athlete, but we can draw from world-class performance to apply it to you as a leader and your team. And when you combine these together where you have a bedrock of not exhaustion, but vibrancy, staying power, and you have tools to perform under pressure, to collaborate better with your team, to make smarter decisions in the face of high demand and change, that's where things start to get interesting. And so, yes, good enough is no longer good enough. It is beneficial, it behooves us to treat our journey of leadership like a professional athlete. Now, I'm going to add one more thing to this that I think is important. And the reason I'm talking about this in more of an individual level is if you're listening today and you manage a team, or you're a leader. We have many CEOs and C-suite executives. This stuff is really important for all of your team, but it will never get adopted and adhered to without you. You see, high-performance cultures start at the top. That's where it occurs. And whether we like it or not, leaders are role models. That's just the truth of it. And so when we think about unlocking better results across individuals and teams, it's never going to come and emerge from just simple wellness perks or information transfer. We can talk until we're blue in the face about making sure we embrace recovery or becoming more resilient. But until we genuinely lead from the front and then establish the conditions to enable our teams to adopt practices that are going to help us on the physical and also develop tools of the mental, it's not going to happen. And so the unlock is borrowing from the coaching and development of world-class athletes and winning teams. I'm going to give you a real-life example here, named nonetheless. Gabriel Galvin, CEO of Mattel Latam, that's Latin America. He came to WinCycle with a mission. And it was very simple. He said, look, I want to invest in my team as employees, but more importantly, as human beings. We are going through a period of high growth, great demand, like many other teams and organizations do. But I believe that it's very, very important that we invest in my team as human beings. That's noble. That's great. The mission of it was to enhance all of his team's readiness to unlock their effectiveness, to perform better under pressure, to ensure that they're primed to excel in looming high growth, and of course the change that was going to include. Gabrielle also wanted to improve collaboration and communication across teams that tended to previously operate in silos. And so he had a performance unlock. He wanted people on his team that were highly committed, but also could show up in the other aspects of life, could also improve their health and well-being. In addition to that, he wanted to ensure that by investing in them, he could get more out of his team. And so everybody wins in this scenario. But the key is this wouldn't have been a successful project if Gabriel himself didn't live it, didn't set the tone, didn't role model it. Gabriel leads a challenge-based life. He leads by example overtly. He leaned into the core practices and habits that we talk about to fuel his own leadership, to increase his own capacity, and then worked with the WinCycle team to establish the conditions for his team to do the same, to adopt. And of course, it's so much easier. And it comes with much greater success when it's not just Gabriel, but Gabriel has the whole team engaged, and each of the individuals are not trying to shift behavior by themselves, but working together. And what emerged from this is a program that was actioned, that was fun, that was seen as a reward, an investment from his team. But make no mistake about it, it started with Gabriel. It wouldn't have worked if the leader, in this example, Gabriel, if the leader didn't set the tone and role model it. This principle applies across every team that I've worked with. Universally, from all of the teams that we've worked with over the last 18 months, when they lean into this, here's what we hear. I've got greater capacity. I can perform under pressure better. I feel better. When we feel better, we do better, by the way. I've got enhanced decision-making. I feel more part of a team. Yeah, it comes back to my experience with working with individual leaders. I'm gaining an edge. See, the truth of this in its first core principle is high performance is no accident. It doesn't matter whether it's in sport or business. It emerges when we design systems And that's really what we're doing at WindCycle. Systems, as I unlocked there, a physical readiness, proper mindset, and then behind it all, infusing the team conditions to unlock predictable results. It's the way of the future. I believe it. Think, act, behave, prepare like a pro athlete. So equipping to perform under pressure, let's move on then to insight number 2. Goodness me, I feel like I'm doing the pop charts here. Insight number 2, investing in your teams as human beings, just like Gabrielle did, by the way, is a smart business strategy. Now, I believe this to my core. For so many years, a win-at-all-costs approach has driven business teams. I need commitment, toughness. We need to outwork the competition. Even when results were strong, the byproduct of all of this has always been a team that is bubbling with frustration, burnout, disconnection from the team. You can't batter and batter and batter teams. To combat burnout and frustration, many organizations thought through this, thought, how can we help our teams show up more and commit and give us everything? And so they implemented wellness perks. It was all about balance, yeah? Now, this reminds me of the experience of coaching a professional endurance athlete. More, work. And things like recovery, sleep, nutrition, they just weren't even discussed. They were byproducts, or they were even sometimes seen as weakness. They certainly weren't valued. My own journey as a professional athlete, it ended in chronic fatigue. Any chance I had of a successful career at the pro level really destroyed, because I drove myself into the ground. I ignored the elements that would fuel my long-term performance. But then I got to coach athletes who were just as committed as I was, worked equally as hard, but they had a difference. I had a couple of differences. Number one, I think many of them were a bit more talented than me, that's true, and they certainly were calmer under pressure. But the biggest differentiator is they had courage. They had courage and commitment to adopt practices of human readiness. They bought into the principle that if we could stay healthy, we could unlock consistency. And if we could unlock consistency, then we could layer months and months and months of highly effective work. And if we could do that, and then results would flow. And guess what? Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, results did flow. It's on a bedrock of human readiness, of well-being. I'm always a little hesitant to use well-being because when people hear well-being, they think, oh, that means that my company is going to give me access to a gym membership, or it's important for my mental health and I'll get some support over there. Or maybe, yes, we're going to believe in having more balance, but make no mistake about it. We are chasing great outcomes. We are chasing balance over the long arc of your career and life. But this is going to take very focused energy, and it is of high demand. I see it more that personal well-being is a catalyst to enable people to show up consistently every day and bring their best. And so these elements that we talk about require a radical shift in mindset and focus. A radical shift. During our assessments that we talk about, whenever we're going to start to work with a team, we often hear leaders come in and say, we want to talk about the importance of wellness and balance. But ultimately, if you just dig a little bit, it's very clear that these concepts are afterthoughts. They're viewed as luxuries and bolt-ons. What I don't see when I start working with these leaders up front is these are principles that are integrated into true performance systems. And so we have a situation where business competitiveness is going up, demands are rising, change is probably faster than ever before. And the truth is that in order to be successful, We need to start to think about this as systems. High performance emerges when we leverage well-being practices, let's call it that, as an actual business strategy. This can't be an afterthought. This isn't a bolt-on. It's not wellness. It's about results, outcomes, and high performance. And these are non-negotiables. When we get leaders to shift their perspective, things start to change for the better. It is incredibly difficult to deliver consistent great results on a bedrock of fatigue. I've talked about that before. We can't excel with compromised energy, decreased cognitive function. How can you honestly say that you bring your best when you're fatigued, tired, frustrated? What's going to happen to motivation there? And so this is actually a bedrock, a foundation of business success. Whenever I start a workshop, I often ask leaders, why is exercise or proper hydration or a focus on sleep or what we put in our bodies, nutrition, why does it matter? Why do we care about that? We know it's good for us, but why? Why is it good for us? And the answers you typically get are, it's good for your health. It's a disease prevention tool. I care about my longevity. And so this is an investment to my longevity. And all of that is true. The challenge through that lens is everything I highlighted there, health, disease prevention, longevity, it's way off in the horizon. It's an investment now in your future self, yes. But on a day-to-day basis, when you've got looming demands, deadlines, team challenges, whatever it is, your immediate challenge is the king, is the thing that's going to take your focus. So on a day-to-day basis, it's easier to let these things, proper movement, sleep, hydration, etc., fall through the cracks. And so I encourage them to shift it around. Let's think about your daily performance as a leader. Now let's think about the impact of consistently, that word is important again, consistently implementing these as a part of your performance system. If we can build a performance system where you have the right practices as a part of your daily practice, what do you get? What do you get out of it? And I show them, peer reviewed, this is what we get. Greater energy that's more stable, enhanced ability to focus, process information, access long and short-term memory, greater empathy, patience, easier to communicate. These aspects. Say, now let's narrow your focus. If you show up every single day with these benefits, what is that going to do to you delivering your role to the best of your ability? And of course, the universal answer is, it's 2 thumbs up. It's great. All right. Now think about everybody on your team. And imagine if they are all bringing that same energy and empathy and focus and clarity. What's that going to do? It's going to amplify team dynamics. If that becomes a cultural norm, what is that going to do to productivity, effectiveness, when you strip it all away to results? And that's what I mean by this. This is a performance strategy. This is a route to better business outcomes. If every key leader in your organization had better readiness, improved energy, control, it would impact performance. And every member of your team showed up. Wow. This is a core component. When we, and by the way, we don't just ask people and participants in front prior to engagements, we want to understand the impact afterwards. Here's a pretty stunning impact result across every engagement we've had so far. 95% of executives believe strongly that post-engagement, they're clearer on how to improve energy, performance readiness. They also feel like they're better equipped to perform under pressure. See, what we're seeing is these words come to life. Resilience, capacity, control, prioritized on the right thing. And so in other words, we're unlocking the component that is the drain on so many teams' results, burnout. This is a key thing. Now, this is only the physical layer here. This is only the physical layer. Let's not forget, in principle number 1, we talked about the mental game as well. Building comfort with high demands. Making sure that you build a positive relationship with pressure and develop the tools and agency to manage your stress response so that you can boost productivity in the most demanding situations. How do you actually have systems and frameworks to overcome setbacks or shift focus when the demands and the conditions ask for it? How do you amplify your coachability on your coach in so you can get more out of it? This is not wellness. This isn't a nice to have. This is a high performance readiness strategy, and it is a key component. So if this isn't front of mind as a business strategy for you, I think you're missing. And that smells, with my big English nose, of opportunity. Principle number 3, the final one that we argued and battled about, but I decided to put this in. I think this is critical. I want to talk about talent. Talent is already inside your team. And more than that, what we've learned over the last 18 months, it wants to rise. This has been, quite frankly, one of the most surprising and I would say exciting discoveries so far with our work with teams. So many organizations have come to us and initially in our needs assessment have gone through and said, look, we've got struggles further down the organization. Leadership team, we're pretty good, but we're getting down to extended leadership team and beyond, and we've got teams that we're worried about. They're burnt out, they're disengaged, they're struggling. It's a huge problem because these are the people that shape the culture, that are the biggest bellwethers on a positive or shifting negative in mindset and culture. These are the team influencers. And so, goodness me, here we go. Leadership program. We've got a leadership team that's pretty engaged, pretty tight-knit, shared mission. But as soon as we're going further down the organization, we were prepared for resistance, for burnout, for disengagement. And we are thinking, goodness me, this might be a little bit of a challenge. We might actually be met with some conflict or disengagement. But you know what occurred? Every single time, by the way, the complete opposite. Every single team that we've worked with, and we've got to work with some incredible teams full of very, very smart people. But every team has been to the brim full of people that are desperately hungry. They want to improve, they want to learn, they want to perform. And in fact, beyond that, it's been our experience that these teams that are supposedly disengaged, maybe struggling with a bit of burnout, they actually want to unite. They want to contribute. They're really ambitious. The challenge was not motivation. The truth is that the challenge emerged from a lack of systems. Systems of human readiness, we've talked about that already. Systems of clarity of role and how these team members and teams can create impact. And challenges of collaboration and communication within teams, but also across teams. These are systems that we can put into place that enhance it. And it is stunning the amount of highly committed, ambitious people that just can't see how to rise and deliver impact because of this lack of systems. This is no different than working with world-class athletes. And in fact, it's a big part of the reason that we develop Wind Cycle. And I would say perhaps the most surprising thing and joyous thing has been how this program has been met as fresh, different, and actionable. Because we want to drive, yes, not just physical readiness, not just the mindset, but also the conditions to enable teams to collaborate better, to align on mission, to establish clarity of role, and do it repeatedly within a team and across teams. That's how high-performance cultures are met. Now, I'm going to add one more thing to this that's a little evolved. There's an additional element that's also essential for me to talk about under the team banner, and that's the art of coaching. shifting leaders' perspectives from I'm managing people to I'm coaching people. Now, why is this really important? Well, let's think about the role of a coach. What's my role when I'm working with an athlete? It's pretty simple. My role is to get the most out of that person. In fact, everything we do at Purple Patch and Wind Cycle is to help people get the most out of themselves. That's what coaching is. What's the role of a leader? Surely it's pretty darn aligned to that. And when we started this program about 18 months ago, I used to add on a little section. And it was always near the end. It was almost a little organic, and it was a bit like a Q&A. And it was a lovely way to end a workshop. And I'll say, look, I'm a coach. Why don't I just share a few things that have helped me as a coach over the last 20 years to establish repeatable results, to help people get the most out of themselves. And I would talk in a really almost free-flowing way. And I would say, hey, look, I have my non-negotiables, the things that are really important to me. I always want to reduce complex concepts down to really simple and understandable. I don't like to talk in overly scientific terms. I want to talk up to people, and I want to ensure that I make things incredibly simple and understandable. I want to make sure that I'm developing language that can be shared across teams of all levels so that it can become memorable and repeatable, so it's more likely to be actionable. An example of that, as I would say, as I fall into this mode, is fit and fresh, something that's always been a part of Purple Patch. It was a huge saying amongst our pros. Fit and fresh. Looks great on a t-shirt, yeah, but real depth. Real depth. Because that phrase in itself was going to define how an athlete thought. It was going to give them courage that, yes, you've got to be really, really fit, but you've got to have the courage to adopt these practices to make sure you show up fresh. So this is important stuff. Further on the art of coaching, I would go on and talk about the importance of providing really positive feedback and accolades in public, but the more negative stuff in private. Making sure that I always told the truth, even when it was really difficult. These are the aspects of what is important around being a coach. I would tell a story how throughout my journey of coaching world-class athletes, I have never been accused of being too easy. In fact, most of my pros would say I was pretty tough. The work that we did was demanding. And the reason for that is I had to raise standards. I had to make sure that my expectations were incredibly high because they were trying to achieve incredibly demanding things, world-class performance. If I lowered my standards, we wouldn't be successful. But how as a coach, how I drove long-term success because my athletes had a lot of fun, were really healthy, improved not only over the year, but over multiple years, and they stuck around, was that those high demands, that hard work was paired with systematic, very genuine support. And that's how you enable people to thrive. This element with the systematic side has been the unlock in Wind Cycle. This art of coaching that started in honesty as a bit of an afterthought has become a central backbone of our programming. There are three parts of it: human readiness, the champion mindset, amplifying through team conditions, but then leadership, management, coaching. This has been a powerful, powerful journey. And so those are our three principles that I wanted to share with you today. As we went through, we talked about good enough not being good enough anymore. Prepare, think, act like an athlete. Leveraging human readiness as a business strategy, not as a wellness perk, but as a high-performance strategy to get more out of your team. And then also, look inside to develop talent. It's there, it's waiting, and it wants to rise, I promise you. So far, it's reinforced the parallels between world-class sport and business performance. The key is to make sure that we convert these lessons into simple, actionable practices that drive better outcomes. This isn't inspiration, it isn't wellness, it's not athletic conversion therapy, this is performance development. This is impact. And ultimately, if you're responsible for results, you want your team operating with greater clarity, energy, and resilience, why don't we have a conversation? I want you to reach out to me, info@purplepatchfitness.com. We can set up a complimentary needs assessment, a pressure-free call. You can learn more about the program. Of course, you can also go and dig in on the website, wincycle.org. I'll leave you with this, team. High performance is not accidental. It is built. We'll continue to share this in future episodes. Back to regular programming next week. Have a great week. I hope you enjoyed the show and share it with anyone that you think might find it beneficial. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for joining and thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the new format. You can never miss an episode by simply subscribing. Head to the Purple Patch channel of YouTube and you will find it there and you could subscribe. Of course, I'd like to ask you, if you will subscribe, also share it with your friends, and it's really helpful if you leave a nice positive review in the comments. Now, any questions that you have, let me know. Feel free to add a comment and I will try my best to respond and support you on your performance journey. And in fact, as we commence this video podcast experience, if you have any feedback at all, as mentioned earlier in the show, we would love your help in helping us to improve. Simply email us at info@purplepatchfitness.com or leave it in the comments of the show at the Purple Patch page and we will get you dialed in. We'd love constructive feedback. We are in a growth mindset, as we like to call it. And so feel free to share with your friends. But as I said, let's build this together. Let's make it something special. It's really fun. We're really trying hard to make it a special experience. And we want to welcome you into the Purple Patch community. With that, I hope you have a great week. Stay healthy, have fun, keep smiling, doing whatever you do. Take care.